Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, March 19th. I finally have figured out a way to get around the change of the time. So we're starting early today at 3:30 in the evening, for me at least. Slightly early, I suppose. We need to trade out this one. So we've got Rogue, win 5 games of Rogue, and in the meantime on this Asian account, we're going to try and see if we can get anybody who would probably be asleep by now, anybody who's awake at all, to friend me so I can get a watch list. If anybody happens to have an Asian account, I know some of my fans made a few and think they can actually win. That also will help, because I'm certainly not going to trade out a watch and learn. On the other hand, I could very easily just not worry about it. Well, I'll try to get it to right now while we're streaming, but if it doesn't happen, then I can spend some other time just waiting to see when that happens. Right now, I guess all I have to do is deal with rogue victories, which, while rogue victories aren't the easiest thing in the world to get, we do have some reason or rhyme, I suppose. There's only a few more days until the end of the month, so maybe we could try to get up to rank 20 and play ranked, and if we get too frustrated with that, we can try to just play casual and get victories. I gotta watch and learn, I believe, on, if not every account within the past week or so, at least 2 out of the 3 accounts. I imagine a lot of this builds directly into like a timer or a trigger that Blizzard activates to give watch and learns. I don't think that it's just random. It seems very specific and pretty consistent that they've got it set up. Also, something weird happened on the Americas account where over the weekend I got like 2 extra daily quests on my main account, my Americas account, but not 2 extra quests on either of the others. So I don't know if I somehow got out of order really badly or what. Or maybe they've changed the rules, and if you play Hearthstone more, you will get more quests quicker, which that's insane in itself if that was a way that it was going to work, because that means it opens up the door to this terrible scenario where somebody could just be obsessed with playing Hearthstone all the time and getting more quests and getting more cards, and there might be some even crazier way to power through it. I'm thinking also that I need to stop opening classic card packs on my main account, like until there's a new expansion, or until I can get large amounts. So, like, no longer are we really at the point where opening a classic card pack on my main account really matters. It's just going to give me a bunch of dust, and, well, I guess the dust would be helpful though, wouldn't it? Yeah, that's a bad idea. It only makes sense if you're somebody like Kripparrian, who has a complete collection of all cards, and potentially all cards in gold. It's only at that point does it start to make sense to not open card packs. And since I'm nowhere near there, it totally makes sense. But maybe if it doesn't really matter that much, we'll wait till an expansion to open classic card packs, get that dust, and then use that dust really quickly to get specific cards for new expansion. So this weekend, I ended last Friday's stream saying I kind of wish I got sick so I could play the the dungeon runs of Hearthstone. I didn't really get sick, but I decided to just spend the weekend doing that. It wasn't intentionally going to be the entire weekend. It was just going to be like part of Saturday, and then it ran from part of Saturday into all of Saturday. Then it ran from all of Saturday into part of Sunday to all of Sunday. And so while I did spend this week playing games, I also spent this weekend not actually accomplishing things to completion. At least I got 8 now out of the 9 hero classes have beaten the dungeon run. I am stuck horribly on the mage, and we may play it like later on today just to see if maybe I need some serious help, because I've done nearly 200 games plus, like more than 200 games actually, because I'm not counting the losses and that at all, playing the mage run, and it's just not working. There's always one of the 8 bosses pulls out some trick that outperforms me, or just manages to completely wreck my gameplay. And it's become very frustrating doing that. But I do want to get that part on my main account at least done. I'm never going to get it done on the other accounts. So I'm probably as well rested as I'll ever be. Spending a weekend just playing cards, not talking, giving my throat a rest every now and then is not a terrible thought, resting your voice. But then I didn't really have it written down when GDC was happening, but GDC is happening apparently right now. It started today, it seems, and because of that, there really hasn't been any news on the weekend at all. Like, so news is going to be a little short today, which would be ideal, honestly, if news was short and Hearthstone was short. I need to get at least 2 daily quests done on each account. Well, actually, a little less than that because of the watch and learns. Yeah, I guess I could play a bunch of rogue cards here and get only half the rogue victories and do a watch and learn on the Asian account. And then I would have the 2 daily quests I could skip forward, and then I could maybe finish early. I mean, this is my typical optimistic thought of maybe I'll do some other work on after streaming that never happens. Like, it just never ever happens that I do any stream recording before a stream. If I wake up extremely early, sometimes on a couple of occasions I've recorded before a Hearthstone stream. But once I start Hearthstone, I'm done for the day. And I imagine that's going to be the same case here too. I suppose in the long run, there will be a point that Hearthstone loses its popularity. and people just don't want to play collectible card games at all. That's kind of the only scenario, because if Hearthstone loses its popularity, but there's some other collectible card game instead that I should be playing, well, in that instance, it's still the I just move over to the other card game in that case. But if collectible card games just went out of popularity completely and I was getting no views from live streaming at Hearthstone at all, but I still needed something to live stream, like how YouTube works would have to change completely different. They'd have to defocus from live streaming completely. But yeah, if Hearthstone live streams got less views than my pre-recorded footage, then I could see myself stopping playing the Asian and European account. I've got them not really even at decent collections of standard cards. That is definitely true. But they're high enough and far enough along that they can do tavern brawls. They're so weekly tavern brawls on the Asian and European accounts would still happen. It would just be the daily quest, I imagine, that I would decide to not focus so much on. And news would still have to work with that. I can only eat into the silent post show so much to the point where that no longer exists. But news, yeah, it would work rather well, come to think of it. Like, yeah, I would just start on the Americas account, which most viewers want to see my Americas account, which has more cards. And then if I still haven't covered all of the news that has happened by the time I've done 2 or 3 daily quests on the Americas account, then I skip over to the European account, which I would definitely prioritize the European account over the Asian account. I just don't have that many viewers right now in the Asian countries because they don't follow English speaking YouTubers as much, is my assumption and how it seems to work there. Also the time difference, certainly. Come to think of that, that was one game I played, so we're gonna just try and add friend requests to everybody. Now, from my perception, and I believe this is true, the number of random people that will accept your friend request on the Asian account is incredibly low. If they don't recognize you, if you're in English, I have had like one rude person accept my friend request and then be like insult me. So he accepted my friend request just to be able to chat, then insult me. But that was not on the Asian account. I believe that was on the European account or the Americas account. I think it was European. And that seemed really ridiculous as why you would even bother to accept a friend request when you could have just gone about your day. Alright, so that was a lot of talk and a lot of setup. I think we are now getting to the point where we can start talking about news. And there's, again, nowhere near as much as what has been. And I don't know why that is the case, because I've muted more people in expectations that what's on Steam would take up more space on my news feed and just making sure I see all of that. And I haven't done that. And it didn't happen, but I think it's because of GDC. Just no games have been announced. Like, or maybe it's because Twitter's changed how it works. And now it's just not putting things in chronological order, or okay, no, I've seen all these tweets. Well, okay. I guess I can either complain about it and do nothing, or I can complain about it and move forward. And notice that the two options there both involve complaining about it. Let's see, add elementals to your hand. And then kill this one. And then gain 3 armor. Then this. In the dungeon run mode, there's a 3 mana 5/1 that resummons itself every time it dies. It's pretty nice. Alright, so Rock Paper Shotgun has an article. Project C is a MMO from the folks behind Dishonored, Thief, and Half-Life 2. Apparently, let's see. It's people that worked on those games, Dishonored, Thief, and Half-Life 2. But it's not Bethesda, ZeniMax. It's people that don't work for that company anymore. However, having big names behind your... Yeah, it's called Darewise Entertainment is the new company. But like having big names behind your MMO still personally for me does not make me want to play an MMO. Let's see. This one. And then I guess we have to kill this one. And then kill this one. Wow, killed myself. Like they have a whole list here. The Dishonored, Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon, Halo, Half-Life, Tom Clancy's The Division, Doom, and Thief, and Call of Duty Black Ops. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a few people get hired to new companies in video games, particularly, that are designed. They're specifically hired just because they happen to be a low-level programmer, like entry-level programmer on another game. Like, for all you know, there was a quality game tester, quality assurance game tester, like an unpaid or minimum wage paid job that worked on Dishonored, Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon, Halo, Half-Life 2, Division, Doom, Thief, and Call of Duty's Black Ops. And that might all be just one person bouncing around. Or it could be 3 people that worked on 3 different games. You can almost certainly assume that the person who worked on Doom and Dishonored are the same, because that's the same company. And Thief probably also. So one person probably did work on Thief, Dishonored, and Doom in some way. Tom Clancy's The Division and Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty Black Ops, I believe, are all Ubisoft. And then Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon is Ubisoft. So it could be a second person who worked on Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon, The Division, and let's just be generous and say Call of Duty's is not a Ubisoft property. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. Maybe it's an Activision property. So then you've got a third person. And maybe then you've got a fourth person for Half-Life. But maybe not. Because it could be that somebody worked with Ubisoft on Assassin's Creed, then went to work with Valve for Half-Life, or vice versa. Oh, they actually break it down here. So in my general assumption on how you could manipulate facts and general conversation, let's check how accurate it is. Benjamin Charbit worked on, let's see, Assassin's Creed as the executive producer. This is the CEO, founder and CEO of the new company is Benjamin Charbit, who worked on Assassin's Creed. The executive producer for the new company is Vincent Marty, who worked on Ghost Recon and Might and Magic, which they didn't even bother to list. The lead artist, Bradley Jinson, worked on Call of Duty, Doom, and Halo. Interesting. The system designer is Remy Boischot, Boicherot, who worked on Mafia, and again they didn't list. And the lead programmer is Aurelien, A-R-E with a dash above it, L-I-E-N, Cosson, who worked on Ghost Recon, and the technical director is Samuel Kahn, The Division, and Ghost Recon. Apparently we're having some trouble here with the network. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people for 9 games listed, which is higher than what I suspect you could get away with. So a 6-person team is making an MMO is still what I negatively have to assume when I see this message. Is 6 people are working on making an MMO. 6 people who worked on other games that were probably decently good, but that's kind of it. Moving on to the next story, and I might as well take my time. I don't... Jeez. There's this... Why is this not disconnecting? Like, usually when something like this happens, it's going to connect, and then it's going to immediately say the other person disconnected and give me a victory. But it's going to require me to sit here and do a lot of work. Meanwhile, I guess we could try to add somebody else. What a weird gamer tag. That can't be right. SH10. The Girls and Tank anime called Girls und Panzer is continuing to grow in popularity. Slightly worldwide, but I think mostly in Japan. So Girls in Panzer Astamari Mina no Senshadu has been announced for smartphones. I'm not going to bother to pronounce that. I'm still iffy on whether I should bother to report on smartphone games in general. It's not like I cover smartphone games or anything like that. So I'm just kind of telling people for just reason. Tragic Master came on and said, "Hey Rydo, I hope RNG is going great for you today." Literally, right now RNG is going horribly because we've been stuck on this spinning wheel for about 2 minutes now. I think I've got to crash it. I think I got to crash it, and hopefully we're not going to be unable to get into the into a game. Hopefully that was just a weird trick. I did try to cheat a little bit too, by the way. Here we got watch and learn. I tried to cheat and see if there was a way to like hit Control-Alt-Delete and close Hearthstone while doing the dungeon run, because what's really killing me is I get through the first 4 or 5 bosses easily, and then I can struggle to get to the 7th boss, and then just a random bad draw happens, and that bad draw causes me to waste all of my time. So if it would just let me retry instead of saying you have to start over from the beginning again, I'd be very happy. with it. So I was trying to see if there was some way you could hit Control, Delete, and thing. Seems like you can't. They've got it all connected to the server, even the single player games. So if you disconnect, the server itself will just automatically cause you to lose. Or it will try to reconnect you if you disconnect and reconnect very fast. But if you wait about 10 or 20 minutes, you'll just get back in. Next time you launch Hearthstone, it'll tell you you lost. And of course, I wouldn't cheat playing against other people, but I'd be more than willing to cheat the single player experience. So I think that's probably a good move for the next expansion, if they're only going to have a bout for monster hunts in the new dungeon run type mode. Hopefully the 4 monster hunts don't turn into a scenario where the monster hunts are twice as difficult as the dungeon runs, but that might be the balance that they take. Ideally, if I had only needed to beat the dungeon run with 4 of the 9 heroes and been given the option, I would have been done a long time ago. In fact, if it was just you get a reward for beating it with any of the heroes, that would have been nice too. That would have worked fine by me. So Gamatsu has a Mary Skelter 2 battle trailer. This was a interesting sounding, but it's really just a boring dungeon crawler game. But I would like to see its trailer just enough to see if there maybe in the way it plays there might be something interesting. And since I'm doing a watch and learn right now, I'm not even playing. This guy beat me very well for being a rank 21 player, which you can't see that right now. Like, he's at rank 21, and he played pretty well. He should be higher, I would say. Yeah, so I'm looking at this dungeon crawler team game. It is putting at least some polish on the concept of what would just probably be a mobile game by modern standards. It's if you take the dungeon crawler aspect away for a second, it is just like a JRPG, except for they've put the heroes as just icons at the bottom, and it seems like you control the teams for the most part by just a menu on the side. There you go. So that watch and learn daily quest is done. All I really need to do now is play 45 more rogue class cards and try to get some victories. Here's where the RNG needs to be really good. I ran into somebody who classified Hearthstone as gambling in spirit. Now, this person doesn't know anything about video games and frankly hasn't even seen Hearthstone, so they don't know what they're talking about at all. But it is an interesting thought, at least to me, as what he even meant by gambling in spirit. Like, because I'm explaining to him that, like, Hearthstone isn't gambling legally, and by the definition, the textbook definition of gambling, because you're never losing anything. There is random chance, certainly, but if you classify everything with random chance as gambling, then every single game and interactive experience is gambling, which perhaps that is what his perspective is, which is not within normality or the mainstream opinion. Let's see, we have 110. I don't think now is the time, though, to be crafting things with dust. So, yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't really get any more information or continue the conversation because, like, I don't get it. Like, of my 800 games on Steam, of the potentially 6,000 or 7,000 games that have ever come out that are worth mentioning, like, how many of those would a person like that classify as gambling? Is it everything with randomization? Is it something specifically because I spend so much time playing Hearthstone that I'm playing it obsessively or addictively? I mean, that's not really gambling either. So, I mean, if somebody told me I obsessively play video games, it's very hard for me to disagree with that. It's absolutely the case. But, or if somebody told me I addictively play video games, I could make an argument against that, because just this weekend I chose to not play any video games at all. I play a lot of Hearthstone because it's my job. If it wasn't my job, I would play very little, if any, Hearthstone. I could see myself completely quitting it, just as not something as worth my time. And society's tolerance on what is the right amount of games to play compared to some people's opinions on what the right amount of play is really different. Like, average people play at least one game on their phone at the very least once a day. So for somebody who never plays any games, or only plays say actual board games and doesn't play any video games, and they draw a line there, it's a lot easy to say video games are addictive if you hate video games and never play it, which if that is the type of person that you're such in the minority that you're no longer in line with normal society. Now, as a YouTuber whose job it is to play video games, I play way more. However, you still can't call that an addiction, because addictions have to get in the way of your life and cause you... Well, addictions have to actually chemically change your brain, so you can't be addicted to video games anyways. But if you were to use even a broader psychological instead of medical definition of addictions, which wouldn't be the right thing to do, but if you were to do that, if your job is to play video games like mine is, like, me doing my job is not getting in the way of my job. When I worked jobs that did not involve playing video games, guess what? I didn't play video games very often. Maybe play a little Clash Royale during a break, during a lunch, during the day, but that was kind of it. And by the time I had worked an 8-hour shift and come home, I was tired like anybody else, and I would maybe sit back and watch a little bit of TV before falling asleep. And there were certainly jobs I had that took up way too much of my time, and you were working 10 to 12 hours a day, 60 hours a week, and at that point I was not even on weekends and things having time to play video games. And there was good large amounts, 6 months, year, maybe even 2 or 3 years where very, very little video games were even played. But that's a slight diversion. I still don't understand what people would mean by the spirit of gambling, and I'd like some more feedback. And it's kind of crazy. I guess a lot of it may come from too is when I was in school, people didn't really. Interesting. He's watching me. He must have a watch and learn too. Hopefully, I can win for him. When I was in school, I played like a lot of video games and didn't really care about my schoolwork, but also I wasn't really failing any classes. Like, just naturally, I was able to guess the right answer or know the right answer. I think I have a better recall, so if somebody tells me something, I can just memorize it, or maybe I'm just incredibly lucky at guessing on tests or something. So, like, I was kind of able to do whatever I want as far as playing games, and I've certainly played a lot of them, but I didn't also fail school, so I never really had parents that said, you know what, that's too much. Probably to my detriment, you know. If my parents had been more varied in the activities they pushed me into, it would have probably been good. They had some stupid obsession about not wanting to put kids in sports, so I was never in any kind of soccer league, touch football, anything like that. Like, I can understand certainly parents not wanting their kids in tackle football or rugby, which are like dangerous sports. But to then say, well, you can't play flag football, you can't play touch football, you can't play young levels of soccer, things where kids aren't going to get like broken bones, but maybe a scrape or a bruise every now and then, seems a little too much, a little too protective. And frankly, I think my parents were just a little lazy and didn't want to take their kids out anywhere to do anything. So by letting me play video games, it got me out of their hair. But then again, the odds of there's a lot of similarity between somebody who wants to be a video game YouTube critic, which was not even a job when I was a kid, and somebody who wants to be a professional sports player, professional basketball, baseball, anything like that. It's a 1 billion to 1 shot. Not really. I mean, there's 7 billion people on the planet. There's probably about 10,000 professional sports players on the planet, if I was just to make a rough estimate. So it's probably somewhere close to a 7 million to 1 shot, if I could. Yeah, maybe if I did the math right there. Yeah, I'd say 7 million to 1 shot that you would be a professional sports player, just randomly guessing. Then you have to assume where you're born effectively changes that. Somebody born in the central poorest village in the middle of Africa has a lot less shot of being a professional sports player than somebody born in a rich family in the middle of the United States has a chance of being like a professional NFL player. Now, being a YouTube star, it's like there's real no numbers on how many people have actively created YouTube channels, but I would say the numbers probably are into the tens, if not hundreds of millions of people. And the number of people that have actually succeeded and made a career out of it are probably into the, I'd say, thousands. So yeah, both jobs are highly unlikely to succeed. All you can really do is try, I suppose, or wait until something else better happens. Part of the reason I would argue that a lot of people want to be YouTube stars is because there aren't other jobs. I know my father was effectively told and given a job as soon as he was able to work, because his father worked at the same company. So there was this whole nepotism and going on there. And it wasn't like my father got a good paying job. No, he got a job acting basically as the custodian. But and his father wasn't a high ranking employee. He'd just been there a long time. But there were actual jobs for people, whereas I would heavily argue that right now and in the future, for many of the kids who are below the age of being able to actually work a job, like there isn't a lot of hope. Too much automation has happened. Too much cost reduction in the form of eliminating jobs has happened. Every year, fewer and fewer positions are available, and the pay stays the same while the workload gets higher. Anyways, that's kind of a long rant, which is fine because we don't have a ton of news today. I wish I had more people on the chat and more subscribers to have a conversation like that back and forth. Because there certainly is a possibility that my personal life experience is just so extremely different than other people's life experiences that I may sound like, or may actually be talking BS about something. Like when I say I don't think there's a lot of jobs in the United States, it might be that there is some region in the United States that is just flooded with jobs and can't possibly find employees to fill them all, which is what businesses claim often, but it's not the truth. The truth is, people apply for jobs and then they get tossed out for one reason or the other. The opioid crisis being a major part of that. Anyways, I started in this rant looking at the Mary Skelter 2 launch battle trailer. It looks still like a dungeon crawler. A lot of anime girls, slightly young age in bikini style outfits. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mary Skelter does not get brought to the West. As we've seen with Omega Labyrinth Z, it seems like we're having a bit of a resurgence there. I think this might fall directly into the publisher's fault, though. P-Cubed, or whatever the company is that's trying to release Omega Labyrinth Z. I think they just didn't have enough contacts and didn't know how the game was played. And if they had talked to the ratings board and gotten word that this game was not going to be allowed for sale, they should have pulled their application or edited it in some way, or not tried to publish it in the first place. And right now in the middle, well, I don't even know if we're in the middle. Maybe the whole video games cause gun violence thing has already been forgotten and moved away from. But close to that controversy, the last thing we need is another thing that could be a controversy. We need to go at least 6 months before there's any major controversy. And I wouldn't claim the Tomb Raider movie as much of a controversy at all. Tomb Raider movie is just an average action movie, and that's it. Apparently Daniel Wu is in it, and he is the kung fu main character in a TV series called Enter the Badlands that I recommend people go watch. It's pretty good. It's one of these series that's very storyline based, so I would say it probably would be better to watch it in a marathon when the whole thing is done, but the whole thing isn't done right now. It's on like TBS with like The Walking Dead, so that channel has always had some iffiness. The second season wasn't, I would say, as good as the first season, but that's pretty common too. Ideally, you'd want to go the other direction. You'd prefer to have a rough first season and get better every season after that. Into the Badlands is an interesting post-apocalyptic kung fu world where gas is extremely limited, and bullets have been just all used up, so there's no more guns at all, so everybody knows how to do kung fu and fight with swords instead, and most of all of humanity has been enslaved and turned into workers in opium fields or something. And there's like 5 barons that run the Badlands, and they're doing political intrigue and fighting each other. Yeah. Yep. But that's barely related. I know The No, which like is one of the YouTube channels I follow, is just called The No, talked about Tomb Raider's movie, and then they complained because one guy, mostly for attention, complained about Lara Croft's breast size being too small, which I agree. It is smaller than even the bosom size of the reboot. Like, yeah. On the other hand, like, I can't really expect anybody to try to fully emulate the original low polygon, extremely low polygon count of Lara Croft, because that's not even an hourglass figure. That's just ridiculous. That the hip sizes, the waist sizes, none of that is humanly possible. But I think Angelina Jolie certainly was a fine human replica of what the old Tomb Raider series was about. I think the bigger argument you can complain about the new Tomb Raider movie, which I haven't seen, is that I've heard reviews where there's clearly sections that were directly lifted from the video game, and it just feels like a video game, and it should have felt like an action movie. But I did want to point out The No was being rather hypocritical, and see, this is, I'd recommend everybody go watch their video. I don't know the name of it, unfortunately, so like it'd be The No Tomb Raider review or something like that. It would be something you search. Watch the video and keep a keen ear out for listen about how they talk about the controversy of somebody complaining about her breast size. But then in the exact next second, they compliment her on her being physically built muscularly. I mean, you're still commenting on the appearance of a woman, either way. And society, in my opinion, has to either decide one way or the other. Is that okay, or is it not okay? For an action movie heroine, I think it's totally acceptable to talk about the appearance of. Actually, I would say it's totally acceptable to talk about the appearance of any actor or actress because it's a visual media in movies. Like, if somebody doesn't look good on screen, they shouldn't be on screen. Like, all TV, all movie is fantasy, and I don't want to see anybody that's bad. In a similar way, the TV show The Magicians has this actress who's been in a few shows who is deaf, and because she's deaf, she doesn't speak well. She hasn't ever heard the ability to enunciate and speak properly, and I've been accused of not speaking or enunciating properly either. She shouldn't be in acting, not in speaking roles. I mean, she looks fine. That's great, but you can't have somebody who can't talk read lines. And so every time the deaf actress shows up in a series, they have to heavily integrate the fact that she's deaf. They often have to give some character the strange ability to read sign language. I mean, it's just distracting from the main story. And I would like to point out that it's not just a woman thing. As far as Daniel Wu, like, he looks really good. He works out. His so the guy, last time I saw him on Into the Borderlands, looks the role of a character that he plays, which is the best assassin, sword fighter, kung fu person that there's ever been there. And Into the Borderlands, which is a bit of reference, has a big fat guy that you would never expect for a second who would be able to fight. And part of the story is they integrate him into the story so he surprises you. I guess this is a slight spoiler later on when he actually can fight. And that wouldn't work for Tomb Raider, which is an established series, but it would work for plenty of other stories where you're looking for a trick or a surprise. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of talk about TV too. This weekend I also watched this Japanese drama horror called Remind, RE:*MIND, that is 11 Japanese schoolgirls wake up and they're chained to the floor in front of this long dinner table. And the entire 12 episodes, nearly every single scene is set at that table. There's just nothing else happening, and so it's all dialogue, it's all talk. There's this really old movie called 10 Little Indians that it's basically aping. Sadly, it's not dubbed, so you're gonna have to watch a lot of subtitles for 12 45-minute episodes to watch it, but I'd heavily recommend it. But it definitely needed to be dubbed. Also, you kind of have to know about some of Japanese cultures, as far as the Japanese bullying culture that happens in school. You have to be pretty well aware of that. Hostess clubs, passing knowledge of that, and basically prostitution that also happens, underage prostitution that also happens. Like, these are all slight social ills of Japan that get mentioned in very subtle ways, so you might fly over your head. And for a drama that's all about each of these 11 girls having a secret and having to remember and figure out why they're at this table, any subtlety, anything that flies over your head is going to make the story less of a good experience. But really amazing production to make an entire TV season, 12 episodes. Actually, there's a 13th episode that is a special episode that's not around the table, but to do all of that in one room is quite an accomplishment. Unlike our accomplishment here, I suppose we're slowly playing the road cards, and I don't see a real reason to switch around. So I'm going to go ahead and end this recording here. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. If you want to support me, gift me a game on Steam. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, March 19th. We're very short on news, so I spent most of last recording just randomly talking about TV shows and movies. The thought certainly has occurred to me, while we need to play rogue cards too, that it would be nice if I could talk about TV shows and movies, but in all honesty, the quality that I see on what I do watch is extremely low. And maybe I have high standards because I enjoy interactive entertainment like video games more, but it's not a lot to talk about. Watching like the Grand Tour, the new version of Top Gear, on Amazon Prime. I watch that. That's kind of the only thing I watch on Amazon Prime. I watch a lot of TV shows. All these Sunday evening Fox shows have come back. There was a Family Guy with no commercials that aired this Sunday because it was sponsored by PlayStation, which is odd because I didn't even see a commercial at the beginning that was some sponsorship by PlayStation. And it really was just another one of several episodes that are different from Family Guy. Honestly, I think the creators of Family Guy are bored with their series, and so yet another no cutaway, straight conversation piece is not really that welcome. The no cutaways is probably because the animators were behind. If everything, in all honesty, it felt like this was some pointless dialogue to give the writers a break, with no cutaways, no comedy in it at all. Just not what you come to expect for a Family Guy at all. And like, I don't know what you do with something like Family Guy, because you can't go forward in the story because it's a comedy. You have to effectively leave it forever stranded in this middle ground with like The Simpsons. I mean, you really can't do anything new there. Although I would argue that The Simpsons at this point need to move it forward. Like, and maybe you could do this with Family Guy. Like, every season, or every 3 or 4 or 5 seasons, you need to move each of the kids 1 year older. So you have like 36 episodes where Stewie is in kindergarten in Family Guy, and now he's going to 1st grade. You make a big deal about them graduating. at the beginning of one season, and you say things are all going to be slightly different but not too different. By doing three or four seasons in one year, and then 3 or 4 seasons in the next year, you have probably about 100 episodes that could be mixed and matched in syndication without there being a big issue. Although I don't think the syndication systems are really set up that way. Brooklyn Nine-Nine came back, and I didn't even know what was going on. And it's still alright, but it's nothing special. So much of TV it's just like, yeah, it's alright. Last Man on Earth came back, and they're in the middle of they wrapped up a section of story that I wasn't really enjoying. I think The Last Man on Earth is getting broken up too much, and it's gotten just so far away from the original concept of one guy left alone on an empty planet of Earth to now being this situational comedy that is still slightly different than most situational comedies, but it's still really just a sitcom now, and so there's nothing super interesting there. I was watching Once Upon a Time a season or two ago. This season though is so different. I'm not interested in that. I don't think there's been too much of any news shows that have caught my attention. I'm watching The Magicians. There's no new Rick and Morty for a very long time. I'm watching Flash. Not a lot to say there. Here, Ultra Hunt says everyone. Ultra Hunt is putting a message he put on before. He says, everyone who's on chat and who loves to play Hearthstone, send me your battle tag so I can challenge you and be friends. Ultra Hunt, just post your own thing if you're gonna do that every stream. Like, you don't. I took a lot of programming classes, so one of the things you learn about programming is you want to reduce the number of steps possible. So in the instance here, you put everybody give me your battle tag so I can type in your battle tag and send a friend request. When you can reduce a step simply by, in your first post writing, everybody who loves Hearthstone, here's my battle tag, or everybody friend me, here's my battle tag right here. And then you can just watch and see if anybody sends you a friend request or not. Like, on the other point, I would have to say, Ultra Hunt, if you're gonna do this every chat, you're raising the suspicion that you're just a spammer, or trying to get people's battle tags for some nefarious reason, which I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out what that would be. So try to stay involved in the conversation and put some different lines, things to be said too. I guess we could talk about, I spent about 20 minutes there talking about how there's nothing on TV. There really isn't. Like, and same is true on Netflix. Netflix has particularly been funding a lot of anime around the Neo Yokio time, like, and every single one that's funded that says Netflix original that's an anime seems just downright awful. The animation's not good. The story feels like an old 90s anime that there's a real reason why we don't make them. They're kind of in a rock and a hard place because I doubt they want to make a Netflix original that is at the current state of the animation style, where it's a bunch of moe underage looking girls Like, they probably don't want to go into that, and they probably don't want to go into the extreme of the 80s or 70s with extreme violence, I mean, even Akira. But then they've also had great success with Full Metal Alchemist and Brotherhood, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So they partially funded the live action remake of that, and in the same way, it's like any live action version of any anime made in Japan, that they're always terrible, and everybody knows that. It's just a bunch of, basically one step above a bunch of cosplayers recreating the scenes. So yeah, they keep funding things, and the Japanese writers, developers, and animators will certainly take Netflix's money and churn out whatever garbage they want. The Seven Deadly Sins is probably, that first season, the only good Netflix funded anime that I can think of right now that I've seen. Whereas the most recent one that they published to me is like the Children of the Whale God or something. Like, the way I check out some of these is I watch the first episode to see if there's anything that catches me, and then if I'm not interested, I'll go watch the 13th episode, the final episode. And I did that for 3 different ones on Netflix, and none of them interested me in the first episode, and the final episode all ended basically with everybody being happy and them singing a song over the credits, which is like the most cliche 90s, like bad 90s anime thing, where the story just doesn't go anywhere at all. It just leaves it open for a sequel. One of the great things about good anime is that it doesn't leave things open for a sequel. The story is supposed to be its story. The bad ones are the ones that say, now you have to read the 100 issues of the manga to know the rest. Or the story will be continued in a follow-up or in OAVs, and they've gotten worse and worse about that. Netflix original shows in general haven't proven to be amazingly good, in my opinion. Some of the movies, like, sure, one movie might be good, but one movie, like 5 others, might be terrible. I didn't think that Stephen King Jared's Game was that great. I don't think Stephen King stories in general are that good, so but his name sells, so that makes sense that they would do that. And they certainly, after Jared's Game, made another Stephen King movie. But personally, the good content I find on Netflix is either you're going back to watch a TV series that they still have the license for, which because of just competition and people wanting to destroy that, particularly Disney is going to have its own streaming service, and CBS All Access is going to try to have its own streaming services. So I imagine we will see no Disney and no CBS eventually on Netflix, which then leaves Netflix with only foreign TV shows and movies, which is only going to appeal to weirdos like me and not normal people. I really don't know what normal people would like to watch. I know kids still are getting very well served on Netflix. There's a lot of cartoons, and it's going to be close to the entire series of a cartoon. So that works well for kids. If you're big into Law and Order, you probably still, you might lose that with CBS All Access if that ever does pick up enough, which I don't think it will. Hulu is more of a competitor. I know Amazon Prime has like Doctor Who, so that hurts. And Amazon Prime in comparison, like, I did watch that first season of A Man from High Castle, and I thought that was a good series. I think Amazon Prime is doing a much smarter way of doing things as far as making content, where Netflix is just throwing money at people like Will Smith to make Blight, which was a total failure. But all of this is a very long rant to waste time. To also talk about Bandai Namco's Little Witch Academia RPG coming out in May. Little Witch Academia is a Netflix sponsored, I believe, anime that I'm not even sure if you really would call it an anime. The game is gonna sell for $50 on Steam. Apparently, it's not even coming to any consoles, which that doesn't make a lot of sense either. Like, maybe there's something about the story I don't get. See, and you can tell this trailer is way different than most trailers, because there's way too much background animation going on. Like, usually most of the screen is black for 60% of the time in a cheap anime video game, where this is colorful and bright in every single scene, with all kinds of cheap effects to, like, bright glowing lines in the background of everything. Now, in comparison, the actual animation style of the characters, not so good. Yeah, this certainly seems, it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up based on the Netflix anime series. And I don't know what the age of this is. It is coming to the PS4 too. Interesting. It's just the article didn't mention that. I have to actually play here. So, if I Google search Little Witch Academia and click here and try to see what the age rating is, can I see that on Wikipedia? I actually don't think age ratings come up on Wikipedia. Let's see. IMDb 7.4 out of 10. Let's see. How do you... TVY7 under a certificate. Interesting. On IMDb, never tried to use it this way. Like, I know there's a website out there that will tell you every instance of anything whatsoever in the show. Like, so if they say, like, gosh darn it, they'll still count that and mention it. And it's designed by pretty conservative people, but it's actually doing a decent job because it allows the parents to be informed, which is all you can ever really ask, is that the parents be informed. So, like, sex and nudity, there's none. Violence, there's mild violence, mostly used as slapstick in the first half. Like, there's a scene halfway through where a monster is given a potion to make it melt. It's written around, it writhes around for a few seconds before the camera cuts away to other characters' disgusted faces. The camera cuts back to show the swelling pool of blood with bones poking out. Large monsters explode into fireworks at the beginning and end of the feature. So TVY7 there, when you read it alone and take it out of context, that sounds pretty grotesque. But I mean, you certainly, I think, have to be somewhat realistic, and you also have to compare it to what your kids are already running. Mild profanity. Wow, I didn't know IMDb. No actual swear words. There's some mild schoolyard insults. Alcohol, drugs, and smoking. None. Well, and see, somebody might, if any of them are drinking potions, that might be considered drugs. Frightening and intense scenes. Mild, not very much. So yeah, TVY7 is what I thought Little Witch Academia is. So that would be an interesting, I suppose, kids game to think about covering on the list of kids games to check out. This is only slightly, man, still not getting those road cards played. Only slightly video game related, but Your Gamer has a review, and I saw, I believe it was one of their sister companies. What is it? That also did a review for this very expensive $150 cable called the Marseille M Cable Gaming Edition that has hardware anti-aliasing built into it. In a weird way, if you have an HDMI cable and you want to spend $150 to make your games look slightly better in most instances on a Switch, it makes sense. However, if you go to something like a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One that is going up to 4K, it turns itself off and doesn't work at all. And you're really not going to see any major benefit from anti-aliasing at higher resolutions anyways, so it's just not likely to be seen if you're running at 1080p on an Xbox One or PS4, not even the Pro versions. So it's just too much expense to have this anti-aliasing feature, which honestly, a chip that does anti-aliasing might already exist in your TV. There probably is a smoothness feature in a lot of TVs, or anti-aliasing feature that you could turn on if that's all you're looking for. That's not really what you want though. What you would want is you want the game to start from the beginning at good quality, not take bad quality footage, frames, and then apply just math to try to make it look a little bit smoother and less jagged. So while I will turn up MSAA and all of those anti-aliasing things on a game when I'm playing it, ideally I want it at the right resolution to begin with. And if there was a feasible way for my computer to be able to play and record 4K content, and for me to have those hugely, there'd be hundreds and hundreds of gigabyte files uploaded to YouTube in a timely manner, I would do that, and I'd just move up to 4K. But it's not going to happen. Like, and frankly, 1080p is pretty good for animated things. Need to just keep playing I really don't have a rogue deck. I'm realizing it has rogue cards in it, so I need to probably just delete one of my existing decks. There was not very many games that came out over the weekend. So there's this one called Finder that is this hexagon looking tile matching game. It doesn't look interesting. It's $1.20 at 40% off. There was also a company that has been releasing Hidden Mosaic games that released several other copies of Hidden Mosaic games volumes. So they're just flooding the market with Mosaic things. I don't want to really mention it, but they are on my radar as one of these fake game makers. A slightly interesting turn of events happened. Epic has released Paragon assets for free ahead of the game's shutdown. So, and from what I heard, it was what they're claiming is $12 million worth of assets. So, Paragon failed, and it's failed so badly that they're releasing the entire, let's see. So their free to download MOBA game, Paragon, would close down on the 26th of April. Now Epic has said $12 million worth of Paragon assets will be free to all developers that use it within the Unreal game engine, which opens up Paragon's character models, animations, visual effects, and dialogue related to the game's 20 heroes and other titles. Free to appear in other titles. There are over 1,500 environment components and a simple map to tinker with too. So, I guess what this is a weird way in which only Epic, really, Epic and maybe the owners of Crytek could get away with something like this. They're writing it off as an advertisement cost. $12 million is going to get written off somehow to push people into using the Unreal Engine. Which is fair enough, because I honestly would say the Unreal Engine is the engine of choice. If you've got nothing, unless maybe there's some really specific need for to use a different engine. So that's great, except for it might mean that we might see some more asset flips, and we might see the bar get raised a little bit higher for asset flips. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, if we start running into games that totally look like they are real games, but they really aren't, and it's tricking people into buying those games, and I mean, that's not a great thing, but I don't know if that really fixes anything. If anything, the hope is that with these pre-made assets in Unreal free to use, people who are ambitious and really want to make a good game but end up only making a mediocre game, maybe they can improve to the point of making their games better. And hopefully that happens more than the number of increase on fake games. Which, you know, the fake game thing, I might very well be willing to say that Steam has fixed the fake game thing. For the most part, Jim Sterling is struggling to find fake games to play. Like, he's pretty much just watching what's on Steam too, and paying money to buy games that looked awful and stupid, and then he has nothing interesting to say about that during the point. And in fact, I've kind of resolved to mute him on Twitter, because now that I'm just looking at all the new games, there's not too much specifically on Twitter that I need to follow and see what he says. If he says something stupid, he's not really relevant. It'll be a lot harder for me to make the decision that I probably will eventually make to stop listening to Giant Bomb podcast, but like they certainly are on the chopping block of. I'm just not getting any new news now from them. They're just repeating the same thing over and over again. And I think this is definitely the right path for me to go down, is to just report news and not report other reporters on news. Let's see. There's a story on PC Gamer. Ex-Hitman and the Division developers form a new studio to work on an unnamed cult classic. Here's the problem, though, that this company is called Shark Mob, SHARKMOB, and it's comprised of ex-Ubisoft and the IO Interactive people, headed by the former Massive CEO, I think that's Massive Interactive CEO, Frederick Rundquist. That's RUNDQVIST is his last name. I don't know why I really needed to spell his last name though. So, what could the cult classic be? It could be, frankly, anything. And so this is barely a news story. I would argue it is a news story, but it's barely a news story about a new indie video game company happening. And we're seeing more and more of this happen, where the talent is draining out of these AAA video game companies because they see themselves, like, I seriously doubt many people want to work on something like Battlefront 2 when Battlefront 2 is just hated for its microtransactions before the game is even released. The game itself isn't that good. For Honor, another great example of a game that should have never been greenlit in the first place, and only got greenlit in the hopes of being big enough to support microtransactions. And even when you just get away from the problems of the current video game industries, there's still inherent problems with working for large corporations in the first place. You just don't have that kind of control. You don't have that artistic freedom. Art and businesses just don't work well together. Which I'd honestly like to see if at some point the government or just rich people in general just giving money to people to make their art and then not giving liner notes, not giving their input, and just making art. Like there's certainly way too much interference going on with, like, in the movie making process. There's way too much interference going on in the music making process, where collaborations happen or licensing happens in different ways, so you end up being told you have to sing a cover of a song that's already owned by that music company, or you're a famous singer and you have to collaborate with a less famous singer, or you're a less famous singer and you have to collaborate with a famous singer you wouldn't want to collaborate with. Like, artists are finicky people, as one who fancies himself an artist every now and then, like, the last thing I'd ever want to do when creating something is be told how to do anything at all. Let's see. Close that tab. Let's see what this game is. There's this game called The Same Crime, came out March 19th. And is this a VR game? Yes, it is. So immediately I can't do anything with it. VR has drained, like, it has drained some talent, certainly. Like, it seems like you're in a room and you run across some runes, and most of every scene is in blackness, so I don't see any reason why you'd want to play this game. It is free. I guess that has that going for it. Alright, we need to stop goofing around here. This is wasting time. Custom mage, I'm gonna get rid of. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna make a rogue. This, and I'm just gonna put everything here. I cannot wait to see the new daily quests come in and replace all the old daily quests. So, like, ideally, I'll have 18 slots for quests like this, and none of them will be play rogue cards, because just playing random rogue cards doesn't work. It's just not a good experience in any way. Plus, it's certainly not winning. I don't think I've won one rogue game at all, and that was what I was supposed to be trying to do. The rank play is certainly messed up right now too, but like, I want something different. If it was all stats based, frankly, that would work rather well. It's like, keep the one that says do a certain number of damage to a hero's face. You can do that with any deck whatsoever. Add one that says draw a certain number of cards. Add one that says play a certain number of cards. That works rather well. Add one that says play for a certain amount of time. That would certainly be different, but easily achievable. Also, if it's play 1 hour. Yeah. I don't know what else you could really do. Unless you add things that say play as the rogue 3 times instead of win as the rogue 3 times. That would be better. Like, because I could certainly play as the rogue. It's just the winning part that kills me. Let's see. PC Gamer has an article, NVIDIA talks ray tracing and Volta hardware. It's really just them reporting on NVIDIA talking about their continuing efforts to improve and increase their ability to make better graphics cards. There's a little video here that shows a nice little animation. It's not the old NVIDIA fairies though. This is just kind of just some random junk that they're showing, like a table with a salt and pepper shaker on top of it, and some kind of bar that has what looks like some kind of projector in the middle of the room. Maybe they spend a little too much time thinking about what they were trying to design. Maybe not. See, the thing here is you need an A/B testing for every single demo, and it would just save production on a lot of this too. So that they need different environments, indoors, outdoors, different things to show, and it would have to be something that looks relatively good now, but looks even better later. And I'd be really interested to see if somebody remastered or remade some of the first generation NVIDIA demos. But no, they seem to do something different, so you can never compare and contrast. I remember Hellblade Suna Sacrifice was a tech demo that NVIDIA was proud to show off, but they're only going to do that for that simple time. And that was, in part, I think, why the fairies existed in the first place, is that they wanted a human character that they could show off at all times, and the human-like character at least, and they didn't continue with it. There does need to be a human-like facial character that shows up in all of these demos, and the demo I just saw had no life forms whatsoever. Anyways, PC Gamer has a Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom review. It is rated 90, which is pretty high. It's higher than you would think for the way they explain how they rate things on PC Gamer. So you have a well, I don't have to describe it. I'll just read the bottom paragraph here. Ni no Kuni 2 is gorgeous, charming, and constantly evolving. Its combat is layered and exciting. It's polished by a medley of systems that let you finally tailor your playstyle. Its globe-trotting coming-of-age story is a bit Sarcane, Saracen, that overly sweet is what that word means. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But it's told well and packs an ending that still occupies my thoughts. But its crowning achievement is tying all that and more into an involved and deeply satisfying kingdom building sim, one that enhances every part of the game. Now, the main problem right now with Ni no Kuni 2, now that we know it's a good game, is it's a sequel to Ni no Kuni 1, which only happened on the PS4. So if I was going to play it, which it does seem like it would be a good one for me to want to play, it's not going to what am I gonna do here? I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna just end my turn, I suppose. Yeah, so if I was gonna play it on PC, I'd have to skip the first story completely. And Ni no Kuni, though, being a Ghibli project, it's animated by Studio Ghibli. Who knows if Ghibli really had much really to do with it otherwise. Let's see, am I gonna die next turn? No. So we have one more turn to play. It looks good, it's kid friendly, but it would be long, I suppose. That That would be part of the problem, is getting into playing a kid-friendly RPG. Actually, that would work rather nicely, wouldn't it? Because then I could play Ni no Kuni 2, put it in a kid's time slot, bring back a kid's time slot before my point-and-click adventure time slot, and have one more series that is just kind of always airing. But that would certainly still take a lot of time to record that footage. Well, we didn't get any victories, so maybe we'll get some Druid victories on Wednesday. Let's now move over to the European account. Having the watch and learn didn't solve a lot of problems, but what did solve problems is building a deck just full of rogue cards. I could have done that from the word go and saved myself some time, and probably should have. That was a mistake on mine. And see, I've already got my icons, and there's no reason to even play this. So for some weird way, the European account hasn't rolled over yet, and because of that, and because it's 5 right now, I guess what we'll do is we'll come back to the European account and see if we get a second one or not. Meanwhile, we had to watch and learn, so we have a card to open, card pack. I'm gonna be a little happy to get away from this pink. I'm not sure I like the card back color. Usually they don't even matter to me or register, but in this instance, a hot pink seems like it's a little too much. And some more dust. And we've got 2 new cards in that card pack. Just another Nourish and another Mirror Entity. Alright. That was a weird twist. Wasn't expecting that. Let's move over to the Americas account. So, PC Gamer has an article. Minecraft server drama leads to a wave of bomb threats in UK schools. A threat against more than 400 schools was attributed to a site that operates Minecraft PvP servers. A wave of 24,000 emails threatening bomb attacks against more than 400 schools in the UK led to evacuations, but were not found to constitute a viable threat, according to the police investigating the matter. In fact, this Sky News report says that it was a result of a beef between Minecraft players and were sent in an effort to bring down the Velt PvP gaming network. Interesting. So, do I have anything I want to trade here? We've got some Paladin overlap on 60s, and I wouldn't want to trade it to 60, so let's play on this. And can I actually win with a Paladin? Custom Paladin, casual, standard. Not gonna play ranked. I need victories. I'm gonna play on casual. The threats posted to Twitter claimed that the bombs were set to detonate 3 hours after the warning received unless $5,000 ransom was paid. Some schools were evacuated as a result, according to it. Blah, 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 blah. Interesting. And I'm looking at the email that was forwarded, and there's a picture of it being written also on top of being typed in English. There's a picture of it being of the same threat, it seems, being written uh, in Arabic. Is that what then? What is the Islam language called? In a Islamic? Hmm. Hmm. Interesting that PC Gamer doesn't mention that part. Let's do this. Anyways, so some reverse shenanigans going on there. The money was supposed to be sent to payments at veltpvp.com. Interesting. And so that's how you basically, it's a false flag operation against a Minecraft Minecraft server. Those are things you shouldn't do in case it needs to be said out loud. I certainly could see I could see people making one joking threat, but this was clearly a plan, thought through, and acted on criminal act that whoever did it definitely needs a stern talking to. Now, arguably, since it was all a hoax, I'd imagine you could get away with finding them guilty and putting them on a considerably long amount of probation, and then maybe they could clean up their lives and realize their mistake. But that's definitely not cool. It's not cool at all. And I imagine, if I was to guess, that hoaxes like that happen a lot more often than it gets reported. I could restore 2 health. Oh, I could wait. I'm looking at this game called Cruz Brothers, CRUZ, that came out March 13th from a company called DCF Studio. It's a low polygon count fighter game, kind of just like Street Fighters, but not the character look, not the game Street Fighter, just people who you would imagine would get into fights on the street or getting into fights on the street. A bunch of what I would call rough looking Americans, guys in jeans with big beards and big muscles, and I guess somewhat appropriately named wife beater shirts. The problem with this game is it just looks awful. The low polygon counts, it's not adding anything to it. It is ambitious. It's selling for $18, but and it's rated M. I don't think it was really rated by the ESRB though. I think that's a lie. It's the only game made by developer DCF Studios and published by them. It also says it's PEGI 16. Does not look good. Does not look good. Now, if this was like a mobile phone port, which I'd almost believe, that it could have been a mobile phone port, then that would explain some things for the low polygon. But yep, I got nothing otherwise. This will be our last recording. Well, our last game for this recording is what I meant to say. Flashback is coming to the Switch in a fancy retro collector's edition. 25th anniversary of Flashback. I have never been able to get into Flashback. Like, I seriously would like to at some day actually play that game and succeed at the game, but I just don't feel like that's ever gonna happen. Let's see. Yeah, Flashback coming to the Switch is not going to sell super well to new people, I'd imagine. Gamatsu has a first screenshots for Little Dragon's Cafe, which looks like a low polygon mobile game. It looks kind of cutesy, certainly, but we need some more information. Let's see. It's been listed for PS4 and Switch, and if it is on the Switch and PS4 and has that low level of polygons, that's not gonna look that great. I mean, to be fair, it's only maybe one generation behind. I've really got to figure a better system for describing these images. Fortnite has removed the boogie bomb to combat unlimited weapon carry glitch, which apparently was an issue. And I don't know how this bug worked. I woke up this morning and got a email from the YouTube saying they were going to merge YouTube gaming subscriptions with YouTube subscriptions, which I still don't understand what that means, because they're already merged. I guess what it means is now your subscriptions to channels that are not gaming channels will show up in your subscription feed when you go to gaming.youtube.com, if anybody still does go there. However, only video game videos will show up at gaming.youtube.com, whereas all your subscriptions and theoretically all your videos will show up on your subscription feed on youtube.com. As the best I can understand it. It seems like a very odd and weird change, and I don't know what they're doing or how they're doing. Maybe I read that message a little too early, but it seems weird. For a second there, I thought maybe this would mean I'll get more subscribers on my channel, but I seriously doubt it unless everybody who's ever subscribed to my gaming.youtube.com channel has not been counted for my other YouTube channel, which I seriously doubt that's the case. If that is, well, then I may very well double my number of subscriptions overnight, and that would be interesting. Tragic Master said, just got back. Mr. What quest are you working on the American server? Well, I'm going to break up this recording right now, so I'll talk about it in the next recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.